Thank you, David. Schuster, Kevin Madden's National Press Secretary for the Romney campaign. Kevin, thank you for coming on. Did Mitt Romney see his father march with Martin Luther King?
Governor Romney, what he was talking about was a memory of Governor George Romney, who was governor of Michigan, marching in Martin Luther King's freedom marches back in 1963 in Grosse Pointe. As you can remember, there's many historical documents that talk about and many historical accounts that talk about these marches back in 1963 around the Detroit area and the Grosse Pointe area. So I think what we have is, I think the problem that we have here in the discussion that has probably taken a step too far has been this discussion over the word saw and whether or not we should parse what saw meant. I think what Governor Romney was trying to do was make a case and offer a historical memory of what him and his brother Scott Romney remember from the memory that their fathers had with working with Martin Luther King, standing with Martin Luther King and working on behalf of civil rights.
I just want to get the facts straight. Did he see him march?
I'll say it again.
Did Mitt Romney see his father George march? Did he see it?
He couldn't see him because he was actually not there.
He didn't see it. He didn't see it. But did his father actually march?
I think that's an important. I think that's an important question.
I'm trying to get to the truth here. If we're on the witness stand here right now, we're trying to get the truth. Well, did George Romney, his father, march with Martin Luther King?
He marched with Martin Luther King he marched with Martin Luther King in the Freedom Marches in 1963. And
there are pictures of there. No, did he actually march with them? I don't know if that's true.
I wasn't there. I don't know.
Well, did he? You're the press secretary for this guy. He's your client.
I know.
Did he, in fact, march with Martin Luther King?
Here's what I'm trying to tell you is that what we have here are historical accounts of who marched and whether or not they actually were arm in arm. Do we have a photographic evidence of Martin Luther King marching exactly with...
I can only get... Look, you're a pro, Kevin. Do you believe that George Romney marched with Martin Luther King? Marched with him, yes or no? Marched with him, yes or no?
I do believe he marched
with him. With him in the same parade.
Well, now, pardon me?
What do you mean by marched with him if you don't mean marched with him in a parade? Been with him, was with him when he marched.
Yeah, he was at these marches in 1963.
Was Martin Luther King, okay, simple question, you're on the witness stand. Right. Was Martin Luther King and George Romney at the same parade ever? Ever?
That's the memory that George Romney had and that Governor Romney has based on his recollections from the memories that George Romney and Scott Romney have.
Okay, so he believes his father did march with Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Well, with him,
I think what
by the way, this isn't all memory.
The debate happens.
No, there's a bigger problem here. You've got a bigger problem. You've got a bigger problem.
What we see here over
in 1978, your candidate said, "My father and I marched with Martin Luther King through the streets of Detroit." Did Mitt Romney, your candidate, your client, march with Martin Luther King, or didn't he?
No, he did not.
Did he do it? Well, then why did he say he did? Why did he say he did?
That's from an article in 1978, which
he was in his 30s.
I know. In 1978, I expect that Governor Romney either misspoke or was misquoted in that article. He did not march with Martin Luther King
So he didn't march with him, and he didn't see his father march with him. But you still stick to the point, at least one point here, that you believe there was a parade in which George Romney was marching with Martin Luther King, even though the press accounts say that never happened.
Yes, but there are accounts that actually say it did happen. I mean, let's look back at the 1967 book by David Broder that actually has an historical account that says George Romney and Martin Luther King marched through Grosse Pointe.
Broder says he can't remember who, he doesn't know who his source was at this point.
Well, that's what we have. We have an entire array of all these different varying disagreements over whose sources and what historical accurate interpretation. I'm sorry, what historical account is accurate or not. I think
my concern is this. My concern is a guy who claims he marched with Martin Luther King and didn't. Your candidate says, my father and I marched with Martin Luther King. You say that's not true. Okay, you say, he says now he didn't actually see, he witnessed, he knew of, he heard about from his brother. He didn't actually see his father march.
Right.
And we're still trying to find out, although the press says it never happened.
No.
What I hear is your candidate's father marched through Grosse Pointe a week after King did, and is now calling that the same march. That's what I'm hearing.
No, I think what we have are different accounts of
historical
accounts of what actually happened in Detroit. I'm trying to get it straight. Every time I try and talk, Chris, what happens is we have a case of two Irishmen who are talking over each other.
No. You can't play cute. No. I want to know why it takes till Friday to find out what your candidate means on Tuesday. Every time one of these issues comes up, he says he was quiet. Let's get an SOT. Let's take a look. Here's your candidate, your client, talking about how he spent a life hunting. Let's watch this one.
Sure. I purchased a gun when I was a young man. I've been a hunter pretty much all my life.
Has he been a hunter pretty much all his life?
No, he has hunted throughout his life, but I think that's one of those statements where, upon reflection, I think the governor probably would agree with me, as others would, that could have been more accurately phrased. The governor has hunted throughout his life, but the term lifelong hunter, for those people who are lifelong hunters...
Like, why did he say he marched with Martin Luther King? Why does he say these things?
Chris, I'm going to try and answer this.
I'm not accusing you of dishonesty.
No, I know that.
I'm accusing him of what looks like resume inflation.
Well,
I think that if I marched with Martin Luther King, I would damn well be proud of it. If I didn't march with Martin Luther King, I wouldn't say so. And he has said so. If I was a lifelong hunter, I would admit it. I wouldn't claim I was if I wasn't. Let's take a look at this other one. You got another problem here.
No, let me answer the first one, Chris. Chris, let me answer the first one. No. Let me answer the first one.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, you're using his words like accusation and why did he say it and what did he say. Look, I think that everybody has to have a certain realization that when you're on the campaign trail, things are said that aren't necessarily accurate reflections of the exact precise thing that happened. And when if you look at the clip that David showed in his package, what we have is a bunch of quibbling over the word saw. Well, you know, there are a lot of times where people go out there on the campaign trail and they say, I stood with the men on the picket line. Well, they didn't actually stand on the picket line. So what we have is this quibbling and this agonizing dissection of every single word. And then you said, did he march with him? Now we're going to have a big argument over whether or not the word with is exactly accurate or precise.
What do you mean by
so now when we say whether or not you're a lifelong hunter,
you were using a lot. Look, I'm not getting into this argument. Let's take a look at another example. Let the people watching, if they see a pattern here. Here he is talking about his endorsement from the NRA on Meet the Press.
I told you what my position was and what I did as governor, the fact that I received the endorsement of the NRA.
Did he receive the endorsement of the NRA?
No, he did not receive the official endorsement of the NRA. I think what the governor was
what
trying
are we to make of these words, then? I saw, I marched with, I was a lifelong hunter, I got the endorsement. When you put it all together, there's a pattern here of resume inflation. Not outright lying, building a little bit into something really big. Maybe his father did march in a parade that had something to do with King. He marched in some other parade that was somewhat affiliated with King. He didn't see it. He certainly didn't march himself, even though he said he did. He didn't. He wasn't a lifelong hunter, although he may have gone out with a gun at once or twice in his life. I mean, this is deceiving information. It's suggesting that he can't come straight on the simplest things. No one would have voted against him if he hadn't claimed he marched with Martin Luther King. No one would have voted against him if he hadn't claimed to be a hunter. No one would have voted against him if he didn't claim to have the endorsement, which he couldn't substantiate. He says things that aren't necessary to say, and they turn out not to be true. That's the problem. Explain.
Well, I think what you have is the governor trying to, when you have these live interviews and you have these, these press gaggles and media availabilities that take place all throughout the campaign trail, I think what you have is an effort for the governor to share information about his record, where he stands, and what he hopes to do for the American public as far as public policy. And then on the flip side of that, as you know well, in this YouTube world and this world where blogs and transcripts there's this agonizing scrutiny and pressure put on every single word that's said, and then it's again matched against a past statement, and then there's another whole entire dissection of whether or not he meant it, what he meant by it, and it happens with me all the time, Chris. I deal with you on shows like this. I deal with reporters all day long on the phone, and they all want to take a 1,000-word transcript. They want to look at one word and they want to dissect it. And very oftentimes, what happens is that in an effort to share a viewpoint, in an effort to get across a policy viewpoint, and talk about the governor's, for example, the Second Amendment and the NRA endorsement, the NRA went out and did a lot of work for Governor Romney in 2002 when he was running for governor, and the governor made a connection where that was essentially the NRA and members of the NRA endorsing him. Was it an official endorsement? No. Was that an entirely 100% precise statement that the governor made? No. But Kevin, what we can do is again share the sentiment.
You're doing a good job. You're doing your best. Let me tell you something. When you apply,
you keep throwing these pitches. You keep throwing these pitches on the inside of the plate.
No, I throw them hard and fast and right over the plate. Let me ask you this. It's called hardball, not curveball. Let me ask you this. If you're applying for a job and you make these little mistakes that he seems to be making, and somebody discovered it who was a headhunter and went through the thing, well, here's what I'd say. Well, did he march with Martin Luther King? That's pretty impressive. Well, actually, didn't... Did his father? Well, actually, his father wasn't in the same parade. He was in another parade. Oh, did he actually? Was he a lifelong hunter? Well, actually, he wasn't. Did he get the endorsement? Well, actually, didn't. After a while, he didn't keep you from getting the job. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I see where you're going with that.
No, that's where I'm going, and that's where I'm going to end up. Thank you, buddy. It's great to have you on.